And we're off and running on a Monday here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you stopping by. Good to have everyone on board for another The College Football Show, Monday through Friday. Here we are. Want to make everyone aware that starting, let's see, in 2 weeks, Big 12 Media Days tomorrow. So this week, we're loading up with Big 12 guests to take us through Media Days, which are Tuesday and Wednesday from Dallas, Texas. Big 12 Media Days. SEC Media Days, which I have been banned from. Banned from SEC Media Days. No SEC Media Days for me. Those go on, I believe, all week next week. I don't remember the specific days, but maybe Monday through Thursday. And we will do the same. We will load up with SEC guests and focus on the Southeastern Conference on the week of July 14th. And then the following week is Big Ten Media Days from Vegas. Also, ACC kickoff is that week as well. The ACC, I don't know why they're running their conference media days at the same time as the Big Ten. Mark, why wouldn't you say, why don't the Big Ten Media Days move off the ACC Media Days? It's because there's going to be many more clicks given to the Big Ten and much more attention to the Big Ten. So the ACC should be watching what the other schedules are, specifically the SEC and the Big Ten, to not conflict, to try to give their conference more pub. But the Big Ten and the ACC go at the same time. That is July 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. So we've got a Big Ten Live show that we are cranking up here in a few weeks. We expect to get that started the week of Big Ten Media Days. So 2 weeks from today will be Big Ten Media Days. 2 weeks from Tuesday. So the plan is on Tuesday, whatever date that is, we will do our first Big Ten Live show with Corey Bratta from the Hawkeye of the Storm. He and I get together every Tuesday. We will do the Iowa show before from 5 to 6 Eastern, and then crank it up for the Big Ten Live show directly thereafter. So you're going to get me for the hour here on the College Football Show, and then follow up with Iowa Live, kick it back to the Big Ten Live here on Tuesday, starting in a couple weeks. That is, in fact, the plan. You see some members scrolling by at the bottom of the screen, so please join us here at the Voice of College Football. Become a member either on Patreon or here on the YouTube channel. One of many benefits would be that you will receive entry into the watch party, and the watch party this month appears to be the Rose Bowl win for Michigan over Alabama in 2024. So that appears to have won the poll. We got over 500 votes, and Michigan over Bama wins in the Rose Bowl, and they win here at the Voice of College Football. So we will set a day and time for the watch party. So one more month until college football season means that we'll have a watch party of another classic vintage game in August. And then depending on the results and your response, we may just, what I'd like to do is do a watch party each and every weekend following the games on Saturday, a Sunday poll, and then a Monday or Tuesday watch party with the biggest game of the weekend, or the one that you want to rewatch most. How about that? So again, that will be a perk of the members, and we're going to see what we're going to do with my predictions coming up, because last season we went with my predictions, Steve Dace's predictions, Matt Zemek's predictions, and also Steve Merrill from Wager Talk, his under-the-radar selection of the week, which is quite beneficial to you for the upper-tier folks, both here and on Patreon. I'll have to vet that out, think that over, and see what we'll provide, because only a fraction of you get my predictions each week if you are members there. But I let you know how I'm doing, and it's all on record. 80% money line, 60% against the spread. Those are the standards, and that's what we meet over time. unless it's a college football playoff for 2024, then we hit 11 straight. That's money line. And then I think 7-4. I think the Buckeyes let me down in the final game. No, Notre Dame actually did, because I picked Notre Dame in the points, and the Buckeyes obviously hit a field goal to eclipse the point spread on the final drive. We're going to go through rivalries. There was a article posted in The Athletic with the 100. I didn't know that there were even 100 college football rivalries. I'm sure we will spend a lot of time on Lehigh and Lafayette, but 100 college football rivalries ranked by The Athletic, and we'll see how they hit us. Welcome into the live chat, trash talk, do all those things, and we will be here for an hour or more. That's up to you. We go the extra hour plus based on your contribution, so $100 for the super chats, and we extend an hour. Much more beneficial to you in the long run, and certainly more beneficial to hear us at the Voice of College Football is if you contribute at Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App. Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App, a much more effective way to contribute here at the Voice of College Football. So please do that. You can find those links in the description section. Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App. Before we get to these rivalries, let's take a quick call. We got Caden on the line. Caden, how you doing?
Hey, good afternoon, Mark. How you doing this afternoon, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
A busy week, to be honest. Been doing a lot of straw bale hauling and a lot of fence line removal for my buddy's company. But other than that, just another day in paradise here in Madison County, Ohio.
Beautiful.
And yes, I did say where I am from, and currently am, via satellite, Madison County, Ohio. Yeah, literally in the middle of nowhere. But I enjoy it.
Just so you enjoy it. That's what's important.
Well, also I get paid. Also, I work for my buddy's demolition company, but also dumpster company, so I can't complain.
Good for you. Too many
Sure,
people out there complaining.
Sure, it's a nasty job, but I don't mind. But since we're talking about media days for all our favorite four conferences, the Big Ten, SEC, ACC, and the Big 12, I feel like the media days are going to be pretty interesting, in my opinion, for what is going to go down. But I feel like with Big Ten days, a lot of people are going to be asking Coach Day about, what's his plan for Ohio State with this schedule that we've got this year. And I feel like, honestly, with Coach Day, I feel like it's a simple thing. Win the games that we can. Because the Michigan game, to me, honestly, doesn't feel like the rivalry game that I knew once. It honestly is not even a rivalry game now. It's just it's just a regular game that we play a team who's had a lot of crap thrown at them. So, but you know what? If we lose to Michigan, I won't care. You know what? We get a ticket to the playoffs. So even if we don't win the Big Ten title, we're still making the playoffs.
Okay, well, let's break this down. So, first of all, you're telling me that the Ohio State-Michigan game is not a rivalry anymore.
It just doesn't feel like a rivalry game. No, nowadays.
It doesn't feel like one.
No, because, with a rivalry game, in my opinion, it's supposed to be a lot of hatred. And I mean, down to the core of anyone's soul. But also, you have to have, you have to have people fighting. I mean, if you're a rival to a rival school, you hate each other's gut, and you hate each other's guts. You want to punch each other, bust the person open. By God, do it. That's what a rivalry's supposed to be.
Well, I don't see any more hatred for any other team, any other games than Ohio State and Michigan on this channel, in this chat, and from what I see, not just here, but on social media, period. So I'm not really understanding your argument from a feeling standpoint. Not understanding that.
But I can't even explain it because it's just...
Clearly you can't.
Well, because I'm having a hard time trying to find the words, Mark. That's the problem.
That's what I'm perceiving.
But if I had the words to explain it, I tell you. But right now, I'm still trying to get over from last night's show with Jackson. You're one of your co-hosts.
Yes.
Man, they went on for hours. I need him, Jeffrey. Oh my God, it was ridiculous. I literally come home and then those two are going live. And oh my God. I don't know if you watched it, but it was, oh my God. It almost made my brain crack in half.
Why? What you need to explain yourself, Caden. What made your brain practically crack in half?
Because literally Jeffrey, Jackson, and Austin from Sports Talk with Austin, those three were acting like the biggest, serious. I can't even explain it, dude. Just from what it was and how it was last night.
Okay.
I thought Austin had too many drinks.
Okay.
To be fair.
All right. This is starting to give us a little
more detail.
A little more details. I'm getting a little bit more of a picture in my mind. Before
but
that,
also,
this was the second topic you brought up that you've not been able to explain.
But also Jackson, oh my God, Jackson couldn't even put out a word because Jeffrey and Austin were going at it. And I swear to you, I thought Austin and Jeffrey drank too much or one of them got into an accident or something. I don't know. Okay. But oh my God, it was just terrible.
Yeah. Well, I'm guessing most of the people that are watching and listening right now have no idea what you're talking about, similar to me. So what's your college football topic?
I'm going to honestly just say for my Ohio State Buckeyes, I feel like we can win another national championship.
Okay.
And if anyone questions about Ohio State's roster right now, our quarterback situation, with new guys with our recruits coming in, freshmen starting, just wait until August 30th. Because by the Texas game, you're going to really say that Ohio State team making a big impact, especially in week 1. And that's against Texas, who we just beat for the national championship. And when Texas comes to Columbus, August 30th, you're really going to see Ohio State team that really is capable, but also is very, I'd say, really disciplined. And I'm just going to tell Matthew Miller if he's watching this.
Yes,
I'm sorry, but I'm not going to apologize to you if Arch Manning gets the living hell beat out of him by Ohio State's defensive line. And if they pass rush, if they put 7 guys on the line, 6 guys on the line, I'm not going to apologize to you when he gets the living hell beat out of him.
The prediction, if I recall, is 12 sacks.
And 15 hits.
15 hits, 12 sacks.
Yeah,
so to say, I will take the under.
That's fine, Mark, because you like to bet on the odds, but with Ohio State's defense after winning the national championship, I feel like that's extra motivation because now they're going to go after another. And then when they go after another, they're going to be more motivated to beat everyone on their schedule. And if we lose to Texas, I won't give a crap. We're still going to go to the national championship.
Okay. So these players have more motivation than Texas, even though Texas lost the game the last time they played, even though largely the best players, the most experienced, most proven players on the Ohio State team are obviously now in the NFL.
And let me just say this too, Mark, just so I can get this across to you.
Yes.
2022, Georgia just won their first national championship in 41 years.
Yes.
Lose 15 starters to the NFL. Who do they play in week 1? Oregon. And they got a whole bunch of new guys on defense that start.
Yes.
And what happens? They blow the absolute hell out of Oregon 49-3.
Yes.
So it's not impossible for Ohio State to go into Ohio Stadium week 1 against Texas and blow them out. It's not impossible.
Possible? No. It's not impossible.
If they can get the job done, they can get the job done. And Matthew Miller, you could say 23-17 Texas. I say, let me rephrase my score for that game. Since Matthew Miller wants to throw his odds, I'm going to say Ohio State beats Texas 49-17. Since I'm feeling confident this year with our defense, and with Chris Henry Jr. coming to Ohio State, and him and Jeremiah Smith, who made the comment of wishing death upon Michigan. Yeah, I'm glad Jeremiah Smith made that comment, truthfully told. And with Carnell Tate, somebody's going to have a lot of issues covering the 3 best receivers in the country. And that's a fact. So Matthew Miller can come on here and argue with me all he wants, but I don't care because I told Jackson this quote. You can hate my guts and soul, but I ain't going to change for nobody because I am Caden the Diesel Freak, the most hated OSU fan on the daggum planet. And nobody's going to be able to change me for that reason. So,
well, Caden, it's been quite a pleasure. Thank you for the call. All right. That's about all I can stomach today. All right. So, let's see. Caden opened up by telling us that Ohio State and Michigan is no longer a rivalry. So if that's not a rivalry, then no rivalries exist in college football. So if that one doesn't exist, no rivalries exist. So that's my first point. Now, I am on record as saying this rivalry does not mean quite as much to me, but that's a personal perspective. That has nothing to do with any objectivity. Doesn't mean as much to me. A lot of things don't mean as much to me. Shoot, 98% of the things in my life don't mean as much to me today as they did 20 years ago. College football doesn't mean as much to me today as it did 20 years ago. So, of course, that rivalry and that game does not mean as much to me as it did 20 years ago. It's not even close. It means about 3% of what it did 20 years ago. Does it still mean a lot to me? Yes. But I'm one person. This rivalry, it's very obvious to the people that I see in the chat every day, the people that I hear call in, just the vitriol between the two fan bases, what I see on social media outside of my platform. Yes, this is still arguably the most heated rivalry in sports, arguably, but I don't think there's any question. It is the greatest rivalry in the sport still. All it does is draw the most numbers, the most rear ends in the seats, and the most eyeballs to televisions, and the most discussion on social media. It's the greatest rivalry in college football. It has been for a long, long time. And I don't see that standing being diminished. Now, the rivalry has been diminished by the system of college football, not by the fans, not by the programs themselves, but by the system. The system has diminished the rivalry. Logistically, I'm talking about objectively, it's not as important as it used to be. Now, I'm not making a judgment call on any particular person who wants to put just as much, if not more importance in it. That's up to you personally. You can put importance in whatever you want. You know, the second graders playing hopscotch out in front of your house and you putting money on that could be the most important thing to you in existence. But objectively speaking, this rivalry, just like every other game in college football, doesn't mean as much as it did before. Objectively, that can't be debated. If anyone would want to debate that subject and that particular point, just caution yourself, because I will obliterate you in about 30 seconds, because that's just objective. We just saw a team win a national championship that lost the rivalry game. That was not possible a few years ago. It almost happened in 2022, but it wasn't possible in 1975. It wasn't possible in 1985. a team in this rivalry could not win that game or lose that game and win a national championship. So I'm just speaking objectively. I'm not talking about feelings. Objectively, the rivalry has taken a downfall, just like every other rivalry has. Every other game in the sport is not as meaningful singularly. Now, there are, if you're talking about one specific matchup that we can name, but if we're talking about looking at all the games across college football every week as we go through the season, many of them will be much more meaningful because instead of just being 7-2 versus 7-2, somewhat meaningless game. These two teams are just going to bowl games and just basically playing for standings in the conference and for a better bowl game. Now that becomes paramount to making the college football playoff. So, but we can't determine in July what games those are. But if we're talking about specific rivalries, they've all been diminished, just objectively been diminished. Now, again, how you feel about it is your own business. I can't evaluate that. Can't judge it. It's not my place to do that. So the terms of pride and bragging rights and feelings, it could be bigger than ever. So Caden, to make that statement that it's no longer a rivalry, well, then rivalries don't exist. If that one is no longer a rivalry, then they don't exist. And to say he doesn't care if Ohio State loses to Michigan, I can't argue with that. I find that hard to believe. I don't believe it, but I'm not going to flat out call somebody a liar if I've got no proof. We're not talking about a factual argument point, just talking about him expressing his feelings. So, yeah. Actually, I'm giving more review to this conversation than it's worth. It was worth about, what did it go on for? Maybe, 10 minutes, and it was worth about 0.3 seconds. All right, so we're going to get to these rivalries. Speaking of rivalries, we will get to those. Please like and subscribe here at the Voice of College Football. Hit the like button and subscribe. It's a two-step process. Also, you would make it much more feasible for us to continue here at the Voice of College Football if you would find maybe some business, some industry, some personal brand out there, whether that be your own or a friend of yours or a family member. We could benefit in partnering with you, and you could sponsor us here at the Voice of College Football. We could be partners. We have never had a partnership experience, a sponsorship in which somebody was not fully satisfied and did not express their gratitude of the benefit that they received here at the Voice of College Football. So that may be to the main channel. That may be if you're located, let's say, in Oklahoma, to the Oklahoma channel. If you have a business that's based in beautiful Akron, Ohio, sponsor the Ohio State channel. If you are in, I can't think of any little towns in Nebraska. I only know Lincoln, Omaha. Isn't there a Kearney, Nebraska? And there's a something Platte, Nebraska. North Platte. Is that Nebraska? Anyway, you got some little small town business there in Nebraska. Yeah, you can sponsor our Nebraska channel or us right here at the Voice of College Football. Again, we want to continue to do this. So that would be certainly beneficial to that endeavor to continue to do this. I don't plan on disappearing, but it's possible. All right, folks, do appreciate you being here. We see a chatter in the chat. That's what it's there for. Tony is asking about the USC, UCLA. . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . status as a rivalry in the Big Ten. We'll get to that in just a second. And Matthew Miller is commenting on the television rating for the SEC championship game versus Ohio State and Michigan. I don't remember what those are, even though we've got videos that broke all that down. So we did a TV rating series, as we always do each and every offseason. So check out the videos. I don't recall which one was the winner this year, but I can point blank say that there is no game that is played year to year in college football that is anywhere remotely close to being watched as much as Ohio State and Michigan. It's not even close. I would think Alabama-Auburn would be the next one in line. All right, let's check out the rivalries. According to the fine folks at The Athletic, and I got to say that this is a fine publication. It's not something that I read on a regular basis, but I look at it from time to time. I should look at it more than I do, because I got to tell you, I just forget about it. I forget, for weeks at a time that it even exists. And then it pops into my head, okay, let's check out The Athletic and see what they have. And before we do, I will desperately reach for my water here. And then also let you know that, again, our plan is that the week of the Big Ten Media Days will be the launch of our Big Ten Live show with Corey Bratta. That's going to be on Tuesday. So the plan is we do the Iowa show right after this show at 5 p.m. Eastern time, and then right into the Big Ten Live show at 6 Eastern. 6 Eastern time with you. All right. So this is the first time I'm looking at this. So I can see right there that aside from showing how many times these teams have played and the date of the first matchup and the series lead, there's no other context to give any kind of perspective on why these games are listed, like LSU and Mississippi State. I have attended 6 or 7 LSU Mississippi State games. I covered 6 or 7 LSU Mississippi State games. What would 1994 through 2000 be? Whatever that is, LSU Mississippi State games. Okay, the states are next to each other. I have no other reference. Never really viewed that while I was covering that during the 1990s, going to those games, covering those games, standing on the sideline, that there was any 1 ounce of significance given to that game above any other game. So I have no idea why that game's even listed, other than the two teams playing in the same division in the SEC from 1992 through 24 or 23, and the states being next to each other. And LSU leading the series comfortably at 78-36. Middle Tennessee, Western Kentucky. Again, 2 group of 5 teams. The states are contiguous. That's all I know. Arkansas, Missouri at number 98. Now, if we had our buddy Ty Hudson on here, he would tell you that he hates Missouri, doesn't consider this to be a rivalry. We see that Missouri leads the series 12-4, so they've only played 16 times. They played all the way back in 1906. And since Arkansas and Missouri have been together in the SEC since 2012, this is telling us that they really didn't play much from 1906 until about 10 years ago. And this is one of these thrown together rivalries. Arkansas played in the Southwest Conference. Missouri played in the Big 8. They were never together in the same conference because Arkansas moved to the SEC before Missouri went to the Big 12 when the Big 8 and the Southwest Conference combined. So they just play the last weekend of the season. They play the last weekend of the season and the states are next to each other. And they made up some kind of trophy. This is not a rivalry. UCF and USF. I hope it's a rivalry. I really know nothing about this series other than before UCF moved into the Big 12, these two teams usually played the last weekend of the season. When these two schools were good, I remember them playing some barn burners about 5 or 6 years ago. Played some really good games. We see that UCF leads the series 8-6, so they've only played 14 times, and they no longer play. We're going to find this with a lot of these rivalries, I'm sure. They're no longer played. So I don't know that they've played. I would also like to see a date of the last time that these particular teams played. New Mexico State, and the Lobos lead the series 74-35. As we will see in most of these series, among real rivals, usually one school just severely owns the other school. Usually. There are some exceptions. So they play in the same state. They're the two major schools in the state. That's an obvious one. Okay. Richmond and William and Mary. Again, I know it's a rivalry. I can tell you nothing about it. They're both in Virginia. The Mid-American Conference, all MAC. I love this. I love when there's kind of an oddball entry. And here's one. All MAC rivalries. They're all the same. They're all basically the same rivalry, is what the list is telling us here. The conference was formed in 1947, and they are all just generic teams that play each other. Williams and Amherst, don't know. Clemson, NC State. The states are next to each other. Clemson is, I believe, close to, I might be getting my geography wrong, that Clemson is close to North Carolina. Maybe not. 61-30 Clemson. Clemson recently has dominated this series. This, again, is just basically two teams that geographically are close, play in the same conference, and they've been playing for a long time. I don't know that there's anything distinct about this rivalry. I've been watching this game for 40 years, and I've not heard anything, or do I remember anything that is distinct about this game? But again, they play in the same conference. They're right next to each other. They've been playing a long time, and it goes back to 1899. Clemson and North Carolina State. Colorado State. They played a barn burner 2 years ago. And with the entry of Deion Sanders to Colorado, there have been quite a few words exchanged between these two coaches and players involved. So that's provided a little spark. Now, generally, nobody outside the state of Colorado, and I'm guessing a large portion of the state of Colorado, could care less about this game. But we've got the Buffs leading at 69-22. Mount Union and UW Whitewater. They have vied for national championships. That's the take there. The series is tied 6-6. They've only played 12 times, but those have been extremely meaningful games for national championships in, what would that be, NAIA? Or is that Division III? I don't remember. Maryland, Virginia. Of course, they were ACC competitors for a long time before Maryland bolted for the Big Ten. 46-32 Terps. Again, just played in the same conference since 1953. Pitt, Syracuse. Now, this is an old Eastern Bloc rivalry. It goes back to these two being independents. Now we've got an ACC team, two ACC teams, and the ACC has enough sense to typically schedule them to play on the final weekend of the season. Not all the time, though. The ACC should do a better job of figuring that out. Like, who is whose main rival? Pitt, Syracuse, Boston College, and then line them up on the final weekend. So it's a rivalry. This one goes back. When you talk about that East block of schools going back to when they were all independents, Pitt, Syracuse, West Virginia, Penn State, Boston College, Maryland, we could throw them in, Rutgers. Okay, I'm good with that. Georgia Southern and App State, I know nothing about that. Again, you're just talking about two schools that have been basically in the same league, and they kind of rose together in regards to their ascension to FBS football. Pretty much happened at the same time, and they've only played 41 times. Wake Forest and NC State. Okay. Don't know that there's any kind of great fervor when Wake Forest plays NC State. I know nothing. I think going to 100 spots is a bit much. Georgia, South Carolina, there is something there. South Carolina entered the SEC in 1992. Prior to that, they were an independent, but they played Georgia quite often, as you can see there, 76 times overall. I'll let everyone know that the link to call me is in the chat. The Illabuck Trophy is on the line when Ohio State and Illinois play. But when a conference decides that two teams no longer need to play every year, what kind of rivalry is that? Ohio State bloodies them every time they play, basically. 68-31, and I would guess Illinois had its run against Ohio State in the late 80s, early 90s. They won 5 straight. Other than that, Illinois won in 07. And their previous win before that was 1992. No, they won in 01. Okay. Few wins in there for Illinois. But that's not a rivalry. Again, historically it is. If you go way back, yeah, they did create a trophy for a reason. So there's a history there that I have read about and since forgotten. Cincinnati and Miami of Ohio, very close schools in proximity, and they still play on a regular basis out of conference. Baylor and Texas Tech. Now, once you get into Texas, basically you can call all these schools rivals. They go way back into the Southwest Conference and then the Big 12. So they've been together for a long, long time. As you can see there, 1929 and 83 meetings. And this is a close series with Baylor up 42-40. Southern and Grambling, that's probably the height of the HBCUs. Tennessee Vandy, of course, play in the same state and compete in the SEC, and Tennessee dominates the series. What do we got? 81-32, of course. Goes back to 1892, but it's basically you play in the same state, you play in the same conference. You're going to be rivals. And that is always scheduled for the last game of the season. Kentucky-Louisville, last game of the season. And this has been a decent series. Kentucky only leads 20-16, so they haven't played much. Now, I know that they've played every year for quite a while now. The last weekend of the season, Kentucky has kind of replaced Indiana with Louisville. It's obviously a basketball rivalry, even though they didn't play in basketball for a long, long time. Somebody got mad at somebody and they refused to play. Virginia Tech for the Commonwealth of Virginia. 62-38, Virginia Tech leads. I like this rivalry. This is legit. These last 3 are definite rivalries. Tennessee Vandy, Kentucky, Louisville, and Virginia Tech. The basketball side is obviously emphasized here. North Carolina and Duke. Probably the best basketball rivalry. Football rivalry, 77th. Clemson, Georgia, they don't play all the time, but it's a rivalry, and they used to. They've played 66 times. Tennessee, Kentucky. Tennessee is one of those teams that has quite a few rivals. They've got Florida, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Alabama, and we're going to see a lot of this Texas school business. Baylor, Texas A&M, although they have been separated by conference affiliation in the last 10 years. I like this Oregon State, Washington State entry, and now they have the distinction of playing in the same conference by themselves for 2 years. UCLA and Stanford, that is a game that a lot of people don't think about being a rivalry, and I would have to... A lot of these games, there was at one time a reason that they were rivals. Something happened, something occurred, and way back, there's an origin to the rivalry, but it just doesn't hold up now. And this is one of them right here, UCLA and Stanford. We are ranking UCLA and Stanford as a better rivalry. I need to get this right around here. We are ranking UCLA and Stanford as a better rivalry than Tennessee and Kentucky, Clemson, Georgia, Duke, North Carolina, Virginia. All these rivalries, those right there, that list of 6 or 7 should all be ranked well ahead of UCLA and Stanford. They don't play anymore. They're not trying to play anymore. They don't care if they play. It just is insignificant. And even when they played in the Pac-12, there were years in which the Pac-12 did not schedule them to play. It was not important. It's not important. LSU and Texas A&M, I like this rivalry. These two schools are very close to each other. And, of course, competed in the SEC Western Division for about 12 or 13 years after the Aggies left the Big 12. And even when Texas A&M was a member of the Big 12 in the Southwest Conference, they played considerably on a regular basis. And you can see that is reflected by the 36-24 lead by LSU. They've played 63 times. Illinois Northwestern, they played the last game of the season. They're both in the state of Illinois in the same conference. There you go. Again, close geographically, same state, same conference. You're going to be a rival. And the Big Ten acknowledges that, and they play in the final weekend of the season. Illinois should be embarrassed to only be leading this series 58-55. Wyoming and Colorado State know nothing about that, although they both play in the same conference, and they're in the middle of nowhere, and there you go. USC and Cal. Again, this one has been broken up by expansion. Penn State and Iowa. This is an interesting one. Do I consider this a rivalry? No. They should not be ranked ahead of a slew of games that we've already passed. Now, there's been a series of interesting games, good games, significant games because of highly ranked teams, but this is not a rivalry. This is not a rivalry. UCLA and Cal. So the Athletic is judging that UCLA and Cal is the 66th best rivalry, and USC and Cal is 68. But Penn State and Iowa, they sandwich them right in between. I don't know what to tell you. Michigan State and Penn State, that's a manufactured rivalry by the Big Ten. And so when Penn State joined the Big Ten, they didn't have anyone to match up with Penn State to be a rivalry on rivalry weekend. And so they did so with Michigan State, and they call that trophy something. I don't remember. So they've got a trophy for this game, but even the Big Ten has been inconsistent in scheduling them the final weekend of the season. So that has gone away. And they don't even, when the conference even decides these two teams don't need to play every year, then forget it. And that's what the Big Ten has decided. The Big Ten has basically decided these games have to be played every year. Ohio State, Michigan, Michigan State, Iowa, Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Purdue, Indiana, Illinois, Northwestern, Illinois, Purdue, USC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington. Everybody else, don't call yourself a rivalry because your own conference has determined that you don't need to play every year. LSU and Florida, they don't play every year. There is a history of great games between these two, and geographically, they're somewhat close. Obviously, in the SEC. Now, once the SEC split into two divisions, that broke up. I'm sorry. I apologize. That did not break up this game because this is the game that they matched up LSU and Florida in terms of cross division rivalries. So legit here with LSU and Florida. Great series of games. Iowa State and Kansas will open the college football season for us over in Dublin. This is a really good rivalry. Absolutely. USC and Stanford, very under the radar rivalry, but if you're involved in California and you have followed one or both of these schools, you know that this rivalry is pretty legit, but it's been broken up by expansion. Purdue and Notre Dame play in the same state, and they played every year for a long, long time until recently. And now the two schools have gotten together to determine that they will play much of the time, not all the time. And you can see Purdue trails in the series big time there, 60-26. Montana State. Do we really need to go on there? Kansas State, same thing. Although they do not play on the final weekend of the season. Kansas leads the all-time series 64-53 inexplicably because, man, Kansas State has to have a huge lead in the series post Bill Snyder or Bill Snyder on. Miami and Florida. Yeah, they should play more often. They are playing this year. They played last year. Canes won 41-17. Miami leads the series 30-27. And they have a pretty substantial lead in the last 40 years. North Carolina State, they always play in the final weekend of the season. The ACC has ensured that. That's pretty self-explanatory. Notre Dame and Miami. This is a unique situation. These are not rivals in terms of the truest sense of the word. They have always played often. Well, I shouldn't even say that. 27 times. They were both independents until Miami joined the ACC in 2004. Well, they joined the Big East first, then the ACC. And, anytime this is the situation where two teams are so good, two programs are so good, and they play, therefore, it doesn't matter where they're located or what the history is, or that there really was no real history that mattered. But this became a rivalry in a millisecond in the late 80s. Their games in 1986, 87, then truly in 88, 89, 90, 91, 92 were epic. So difficult to rank this one because it's really not a rivalry, but it became one. Alabama and Clemson. You got me on this one. I don't know if you can click some. Oh, you might. Oh, there we go. Okay. Well, there's more information there, but we're not going to get into all that. So that's my fault. Didn't realize that they actually. I should have not been surprised that the Athletic would have more details, more information. I would think that this has something to do with Dabo Swinney and then their recent college football playoff appearances against each other. That's what this is, because otherwise there's no rivalry here. So a lot of this is being determined by success of two programs and them meeting. These two are the obvious examples of this. They are the classic examples of two dominant programs that have nothing to do with one another, but scheduling or playoff conditions have brought them together for them to play monumental games over and over. And for Alabama and Clemson, they played 4 years in a row? 2015, 16, 17, 18. Yes, they split, and they were all national championship type scenarios. But that's the whole deal right there. They've played 19 times in 125 years. That's not a rivalry. But hey, if you want to play these type situations into it, fine. It's interesting to look at. Yes, this is a microwave rivalry. All right. Territorial Cup. It's actually an insult to Arizona and to Arizona State that Alabama and Clemson, just based on 4 years, is as good a rivalry as Arizona and Arizona State for the Territorial Cup. But so be it. So I would not rank those similarly. Tennessee and Georgia. Clemson, Florida State. Don't consider that a rivalry. And I get a leg to stand on there because we do a Florida State show that I hosted for about 4 years in a row. And none of those Florida State guys consider Clemson a rival. This, again, grew out of circumstances. Florida State joined the ACC. Clemson got good. They battled for a division championship multiple times. Bingo, rivalry. We're up to number 51, Michigan, Minnesota, for, of course, the old, whatever they call that jug, the little brown jug. And Michigan dominates that one, 78-25. But the Big Ten has deemed it not important enough to play every year. Alabama, Georgia, sure, that has been, they've always been rivals because, again, longstanding schools, same conference, contiguous states, put all that together. And then, of course, they've been arguably the two best football programs in the country in the last 10 years. So that has spurred that on. Bama leads 44-26. Indiana, Purdue, of course, for the old Oaken Bucket. Purdue's got a commanding lead there, 77-43. LSU, Arkansas. Now, 5 years ago, this would have been properly placed. It should be moved back considerably. These two teams no longer play every season. And this was once Arkansas joined the SEC in 1992, the SEC determined that these two would play on the final weekend of the season. Well, that lasted until about 5 to 6, 7 years ago, something in that range, when they switched up and went LSU, Texas A&M. Well, it started when Texas A&M joined the SEC in 2012. Then they switched up the pairing and went LSU, Texas A&M, and then they went Arkansas, Missouri. But this game, this series has produced some awesome games. And of course, the states are right there. I would actually, 10 years ago, I would have rated this game much higher, but it's lost some luster, and Arkansas has not been competitive, and the SEC has broken up this series. 45-23 LSU, but they have played some epic games. Michigan and Penn State. Yeah. Penn State joined the Big Ten in 93. I don't know that they played much before. They didn't play at all before that. Look at that. Michigan and Penn State had never played. Okay. Michigan has won 17 of 27 since Penn State joined the Big Ten. And of course, they have played some extremely important games. 1997, Penn State was number 1. Michigan blasted them and went on to the national championship. 2005, Michigan won in the final second. Otherwise, Penn State might have played for the BCS championship game, and so forth. TCU, SMU, they play just about every year. Yeah, they're both in Dallas. That's a good call right there. Notre Dame, Michigan State, love that series. It used to be every year, Notre Dame and Michigan State. Iowa, Nebraska, this is an old one. Now a new one. Once Nebraska joined the Big Ten determined that these two need to play. And I think it was a good move, number one. Number two, a good move to make it a Friday game, to give it some distinction. And you see Nebraska leads the series 30-22, and that lead is dissipating by the year. Iowa has won 9 of 10. LSU and Ole Miss, good series. Just one of those old Southern series. I covered this one for 6 or 7 years. And LSU has a substantial lead, 66-43. Virginia and North Carolina. Might surprise some people to know when we talk about realignment and North Carolina going somewhere that they may take Virginia with them over NC State. There is a rivalry there. Might be a little overrated here. Lafayette, Lehigh, they've played more than any two schools in the country. Okay, this doesn't make any sense. You cannot bypass this one. I don't get this. I don't understand it. No, it doesn't make any sense. I'm not letting these people off the hook at The Athletic. They do a phenomenal job most of the time, but this doesn't fly. Is it the Notre Dame Navy series or the Notre Dame Army series? Two different things. Now, Notre Dame and Navy have played, I don't think they've missed a year other than the COVID year, missed a year in my lifetime. Notre Dame Army, they played their classic games back in the 1940s with Glenn Davis and Doc Blanchard. All right, North Dakota State and South Dakota State. Yeah, again, I just have to make assumptions. Great rivalry. Yeah, they play up in the cold. All right, Texas and Arkansas. Love it. Now, Texas has just joined the SEC. These schools have a long history, a lot of just phenomenal games as powers in the Southwest Conference. That's where this comes from. And they've been reunited. Pitt, Penn State. These schools have done a decent job after a long drought of trying to get together on a regular basis. They used to play. Pitt, include Pitt. Well, I think I did when I talked about Eastern football with about 7 or 8 schools being independents for a long time. Tennessee and Florida, of course, great rivalry in the SEC. And for a long time, before Alabama reemerged and some teams in the SEC West like LSU, Tennessee and Florida there in the 1990s was the biggest game in the conference. 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98. For that entire run, that was generally the biggest game in the conference. But I don't know that the SEC has protected that game. I'm not sure. TCU, Baylor, Minnesota, Iowa. I'm not going to go on and on about all these. The Florida of Rosedale is, of course, the trophy there for Minnesota, Iowa. Iowa's dominated the series in recent years, although Minnesota still has a 10-game lead. Yeah, TCU and Baylor. Nebraska, Colorado, a bit high. Iowa, Iowa State. They are committed to playing one another. They do every year. 71 meetings. That goes back to 1894. So they obviously didn't play for a long, long time, but they do now. Georgia, Georgia Tech. That game is intact every year. ACC and the SEC. Georgia leads easily, 72-41. Washington, Washington State. Glad to see Washington, Washington State, Oregon, Oregon State maintained in this new world of college football with a realignment. Stanford and Cal. That seems a little low. It's the big game. Okay. And of course, the lore that everyone latches onto is that 1982 game with the band on the field. And if you are not aware of what I'm talking about, I would be shocked. But if you're not aware of what I'm talking about, maybe you've been a college football fan for a short time, just look it up, just take it in, just understand what's going on here. That Stanford took a lead late in the game, like very late in the game, 5 seconds left in the game. There was a kickoff with 5 seconds left. And then, yes, watch it from there. John Elway did not make it to a bowl game because the Stanford band did not have the IQ to stay off the field. Utah and BYU, the Holy War. I got to think that should be ranked higher. Talk about hatred. That might be the most hate-filled rivalry in the country. Utah and BYU. Civil War. Now that tells you something right there. Some people would tell you we're not supposed to say that anymore. It's a name for a game. Let's calm down. Oregon State, Civil War. Oregon's dominated, though. 69-49, not quite as lopsided as I thought. Pitt, West Virginia, the backyard brawl, number 26. We're getting to rarefied air here, and I'm guessing Pitt, West Virginia fans would be flabbergasted, upset, raving mad that their rivalry is only ranked number 26. Bedlam. They don't play anymore. I'm sure this rivalry has taken a tumble in these rankings. It would have been ranked much higher. Clemson, South Carolina, the Palmetto State rivalry, and South Carolina has notched a couple wins here in the last 3 years. The Egg Bowl, it's a great one. Ole Miss, Mississippi State. They played on Thanksgiving for a long, long time. I went to the first one, covered the first one, 1998. But I believe they stopped that last year. They're going to be playing on Fridays now. Iowa, Wisconsin. It's a great rivalry. It seems to be a little overranked. I would rank the Egg Bowl, Clemson, South Carolina, Bedlam, certainly Bedlam pre-move to the SEC, and Pitt, West Virginia, the backyard brawl, and the Civil War. I would rank all of those ahead of Iowa and Wisconsin. What are we looking at here? In perhaps the most overlooked great rivalry, I guess that is the point to be taken, that I overlooked it. It's a little high. Upper Midwest programs combined for 7 division titles, 9 10-win seasons over the Big Ten West 10-year existence. They are built with the same tenets of physicality and power. Located 175 miles apart, it played 41 games in which at least one team was ranked. Okay. That includes 9 times they face off as ranked opponents. That's really not that impressive. They've played 98 times. They've played 98 times. Wait a minute. This is pretty pathetic. This is actually a knock against this rivalry. They've played 98 times, and they've both been ranked 9 times? Okay, great. Okay. Biggest game was in 2010. Wisconsin won, then shared the Big Ten championship. All right. Too high. Washington, Oregon, 21. I'm good with that. Harvard and Yale, kind of difficult to mix these lower division games, but that is, I'm getting my cliches mixed up now. You got the game, you got the big game, and this is, it's got to be listed here. This is the, what do we call this? That's the game too. All right. Well, So Harvard and Yale, difficult to rank against the rest of these. You're not going to see an NFL player maybe once every 5 years. Kansas, Missouri, isn't that too high? Kansas and Missouri is at 19. Way too high. Like once we get to this place, we're in the top 20 now. These teams have to be good, number one. Number two, they've got to be playing in the same conference for the most part and have to be vying for something. No, I don't agree with this. I understand they played a zillion times, but no, way too high. Michigan, Notre Dame. Wow. Epic. Auburn, Georgia, the deep South's oldest rivalry. Michigan, Michigan State, Texas, Texas A&M, USC, UCLA, too low. Bama, LSU. I'd put USC, UCLA above Bama, LSU. Georgia, Florida. Of course, the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. Bama, Tennessee. Third Saturday of October. Minnesota, Wisconsin. Paul Bunyan's Axe. Florida, Florida State. I don't recall where Miami, Florida was, and Miami, Florida. Well, there's Miami, Florida State right there at number 7. So Ohio State, Penn State ranking. I get it. Two of the great programs in college football. They played every year from 1993 to whenever. Right now, they played every year. That's going to cease to exist. That's too high. Too high. If it had been a closer series, yeah, it's too high. Great game, but the Big Ten has designated it to be and also ran. Nebraska, Oklahoma. Well, if this was 25 years ago, then that would be in the top 3. But they don't play anymore. USC and Notre Dame. Okay, Army Navy does not belong in this list. It belongs all by itself. Army Navy is special. Of course, all these are special in their own right, but that's just different. It's different. Patriotism, it's bigger than football. Army Navy. I would write this and say this game is separate. It's just different. Separate. No, thank you. Do not try to rank this game against the other ones. Oklahoma, Texas, which leads us to Auburn, Alabama, and Ohio State, Michigan. Yeah, so I'm good with the top 3. And on to the next one, USC, Notre Dame, and Nebraska, Oklahoma was so great that even though they don't play anymore, they still rank them that high. I would move it down because now it's no longer played. Miami, Florida State's a bit new, although new means in terms of it being relevant nationally. Move down Ohio State and Penn State. And I'm okay with the rest of this generally, other than that USC UCLA game needs to move up. All right, folks. Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. Don't know what you guys are saying in the chat. I've not been able to look at the chat. $79 Jed Buck, you are looking directly at USC and UCLA at number 14, correct? Yes. They're right in front of you. Exactly, Matthew. You're correct. Ohio State and Penn State over Texas, Texas A&M. No. That's no. Not accurate, not a reasonable perspective. Yes. Texas A&M should be above Alabama and LSU, although that's a closer, much closer call. Michigan, Notre Dame, when I was growing up, it was arguably, it was a top 3 to 4. Christopher Foot would like to see Air Force and Army. Okay, it's part of the Commander's Trophy. There's one to throw out there. Good call by our friend Chris. West Virginia, Virginia Tech. That is one. Correct. So generally well done. They missed it severely about 5 to 10 times. For sure. All right, folks, we appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. I'll be back on Tuesday at 4 Eastern. We've got the Iowa show at 5:30. Also tonight, we've got a new Miami edition starting. We've got a new Miami live show starting on Monday night. I'll be there at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So join us on the Miami show. We've got actually 16 shows today and tonight here at the Voice of College Football. So check them out. Those shows are posted on X. They're also posted right here on the community tab. All right, folks, thanks for stopping by. See you on Tuesday.